Faraday's Mirror, Chapter 15, Breakfast with Champions. Byron and Cole fled back down the path toward the water, never daring to stop, despite the reassurance that over their shoulders they could see nothing but trees. When they reached the swamp, they splashed off the trail, only stopping once they entered a thick tangle of conifer boughs and snaking vines. "What are the English doing with skeletons?" Cole asked, stepping noisily up out of the muddy water onto a creaking snarl of twisted branches left by the floodwaters. "I don't know, but I don't like it," Byron replied, joining his brother. The boughs swayed around him as he bent double, breathing hard. Harold padded into ankle-deep mud and flopped onto his side. "My whole plan has been to hook up with them and build another portal." Cole rubbed his hand across his sweating face. "What do we do now?" "I don't know," Byron offered. "But I tell you what, I'm not going to walk up to a squad of armed soldiers and undead. Bad idea. I've watched enough horror films to know that." "Yeah." Cole thought of the miniatures he'd been painting and shuddered. "What about this?" Byron said. "We keep on down the river and look for a British town. The civilians can't have changed that much. They won't want to see kids imprisoned or killed, right?" "I hope not," Cole said. Then his face lit up. "Hey, maybe skeletons are just the height of fairyland military technology, like Apache helicopters or Abrams tanks. I mean, they're pretty scary too. No kids would dare walk up to a tank battalion in a war zone either." "Maybe," Byron replied, unconvinced. "Anyway, we better get moving. I don't like waiting here so close to those things. Look, I've got goosebumps." He showed Cole his arm, upon which the skin still prickled, and the hair stood up. The rest of their daily march went strangely well. The swamp terminated in a series of large beaver dams, and after those, the water returned into a river and the terrain dried out. 8 hours later, Byron caught 4 trout. Cole set up the tent on a mossy flat under a strand of yellow birch trees, and they kindled the fire using bark peelings and a match. They sat beside the campfire in the eternal twilight, gazing at the stars and eating their fill of fish. Even Harold had plenty. "While fishing," Byron observed between mouthfuls of trout, "I kept seeing what I thought was a large dragonfly flitting between the reeds until it landed on my pole." He paused for effect. "Turned out to be a fairy." "What?" "I'm not clowning you. A flesh and blood fairy, about 3 inches long and totally naked." "What did she look like? Tinkerbell?" Byron laughed. "Nope. This one seemed old. If she was a woman, I'd say she was 80. But I don't know how to count in fairy years. Her skin was all wrinkled and saggy, and she looked kind of, Mongolian, I guess, like Genghis Khan's grandma. But her wings were dragonfly wings, not butterfly wings." "Did you talk to her?" "No, and she didn't talk to me. She just winked and flew off." "Leaving a trail of pixie dust?" Cole laughed. "Shut up," Byron replied with a chuckle. "Who would have ever thought that this place existed?" Cole said, fiddling with his Walkman. "And right across a mirror from our room the whole time." But his tone changed as he spoke. "Byron, my batteries are dying. Music's warping. Last bit of charge gone. I know it doesn't matter. But I listen for a moment before bed every day, and it reminded me of..." He trailed off again, and then stood abruptly. "Yeah, I think I'm going to go get some more firewood," he said, ducking away from the fire into the gloom under the trees. Byron sat for a few moments, staring at the dancing flames and rubbing Harold's fur. A wet branch hissed away in the flames, steaming out moisture into the smoke. The last song he'd heard Cole listened to played in his head, and he whispered the lyrics under his breath. "Round Here" by the Counting Crows. He looked down at the cast on his arm and thought about riding in the Jeep with his mom and dad, about classic rock and Boston cream donuts, and about getting Cole's call that the mirror was finished. He stood abruptly and followed his brother. On the far side of the clearing, he found Cole crouched with his back toward the tent and his head against a birch trunk. "It's okay," Byron said. "I mean it when I say I don't blame you." "It's not okay," Cole said, turning and looking up. "And it's my fault, all of this. I just had to make the portal. I was greedy and conceited and you accomplished an amazing task," Byron finished. "I miss Mom and Dad," Cole said simply. He cradled his Walkman in his hands. "I miss our house and New Hampshire and America." He rubbed his eyes. "I'll never see them again, and you'll never see them either. And I can't help but sit here blaming myself. They probably think we're dead. They're probably sitting at home mourning us." "Maybe they should be." Byron crouched down, picking up a twig, and bent it in his fingers. "I miss them too," he admitted. "If I could go back and change things, I would, but we're here now. And we can't go back, not by feeling sorry and not by wishing it so. So maybe we shouldn't look back." He paused. He snapped the twig. This will sound lame, but it's like my hockey coach says, blame don't win games. He's right. We're here, and we've got to look forward if we're going to move forward. Cole shuddered, looking down at the sleek black Walkman in his soft hands. I've never felt so useless. I don't know anything to help us here. I don't know how to be a woodsman. I don't know fairy tales. I can't hunt, can't fight, can't even identify edible plants. All my learning, everything that made me exceptional at home is pointless. Any of the knuckleheads that live up our road, any of those guys that ride four-wheelers, hunt deer, shoot guns, and don't read, any of them would be better help to you than I am. Byron smirked. Welcome to my life, Cole Noakes. You think it's easy being a dyslexic kid in a world of books, papers, and tests? My entire life, I felt like you do now. And you know what I do about it? What? I grind. I work my ass off. You, Mom, Dad, you all know I'm smart. I know it too. Deep down, I'm just kind of smart that doesn't achieve real well in academics. I've got ambitions, though, so I work. I'm a grinder. When I grind, I get better. I have successes. Byron threw away the bit of stick and reached to put a hand on Cole's shoulder. Maybe in the short term, he said, a guy like Rick Hubbard, Bob Donahue, or Uncle Jack would be a difference maker here and now. But I know you, Colton Oakes. He stood. You're a quick study and a hard worker. You learn fast, you make connections, and I trust you. Give it a year and you'll be better adapted to this place than I am. Guaranteed. Harold patted over and flopped down in Cole's lap, licking his hand. That sounds like one of Dad's inspirational speeches, Cole sniffed. He rubbed Harold's dirty fur. A year here is 5 back home. Home. If we ever get back, could they forgive me? I'll burn down the house, Byron. They love you, Cole. They won't even think about blame if they get you back. Look, Byron said, standing up, I'm going to bed. Stay out long enough to get your head right, but not too late. We've got a long walk ahead of us tomorrow. He looked at the twilight in frustration. If there's even such a thing as tomorrow here. Sighing, he turned toward the tent. Thanks, Mom, Cole replied, but from his tone, Byron could tell he felt a bit better. Byron woke up to the throaty sound of a crow's cawing. Looking up against the green nylon of the tent, he saw the bird's 3-toed feet shadowed against the dim light, walking along the fly above the mesh sunroof. He reached up a hand, batted the fabric, and the bird flew away, its call joined by the caws of 3 or 4 others. He rolled over to see Cole still asleep next to him, but sat up with a start when he didn't see Harold. Then he smelled cooking meat. He strained his ears over the noise of the birds and the rolling current of the river, and he could hear the sizzle of something suspiciously like bacon. A desperate prayer that he'd been dreaming and awoke on a scouting overnight flitted through his mind, but he discarded it. Sitting up and carefully pulling on the zipper, Byron swung his feet out of the tent and strapped on his sandals. A crow heckled him from low in a nearby branch. He wondered how Cole could manage